The great station of Velora was alive with noise, color, and power. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled its wide halls and shining arenas. The station itself floated near a dying star, a neutral ground where warriors came to prove their strength. Flags of many species hung from high beams. Weapons glimmered under the artificial light. Music, laughter, and the roar of alien voices blended into a storm of sound. At the heart of it stood the Circle of Honor, an ancient dueling ground. Here, warriors fought not for money but for pride. Every duel was a test of courage, skill, and tradition. To step into the circle was to face not only one's rival, but also the judgment of the galaxy. On this day, the audience was excited. A new fighter had arrived, one unlike the usual armored beasts or sharp-clawed predators. It was a man, a human. His name was Captain Elias Ward, a traveler, explorer, and survivor of many worlds. He had no shining armor, no glowing weapon, no long list of victories. He wore a simple black jacket, sturdy boots, and carried himself with calm ease. His dark hair was cut short, his eyes steady. He did not look like a hero of old tales. To most of the crowd he looked fragile. Whispers filled the seats as he stepped into view. A human? They are soft, weak bones, slow reflexes. What is he doing here? This is no place for his kind. They say they use machines to fight. Without machines, they are nothing. Elias heard it all, but he did not answer. He had learned long ago that silence was more powerful than words. From the far end of the arena came the sound of armored steps. A figure emerged, tall and imposing, covered in silver-blue plating that reflected the lights of the arena. The crowd cheered as she raised her spear. It was General Kareth, a commander of the Zoran people. Her species was known for their warrior culture, their discipline, and their unmatched combat skills. She was taller than Elias by a head, her armor etched with marks of battles past. Her eyes burned with confidence as she looked at the human. "So," she said in a voice that carried across the arena, "this is what humanity sends? A wanderer with no armor, no weapon, no honor?" The crowd laughed. Some shouted insults. Others shook their heads, already certain of the outcome. Elias stepped forward, his face calm. "I am Elias Ward. I do not fight for spectacle. I fight because you challenged me." Kareth's mouth curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "Then I will give you a lesson, human. I will show you your place in the galaxy." She raised her spear, pointing it at him. The crowd roared in approval. The council of judges seated above the arena nodded. The duel was official. Elias walked into the circle unarmed. Some in the crowd laughed louder. Others whispered with curiosity. What kind of man faced a warrior general with bare hands? The bell rang. The duel had begun. Kareth moved quickly, her spear flashing in the light. She circled Elias like a predator testing prey. Elias shifted his weight, calm, his eyes watching every step. "You do not draw a weapon?" Kareth asked, amused. "I have no need of one yet," Elias replied softly. Her eyes narrowed. She lunged, her spear thrusting forward like lightning. Elias moved just enough, a tilt of his body a step aside. The spear missed by an inch. The crowd gasped. Kareth pulled back, testing him again. She swung the spear in a wide arc. Elias ducked, rolled, and stood again, his face still calm. The duel seemed unbalanced. She was a trained general, armed and armored. He was only a man in a jacket. Yet somehow he was not falling. The crowd grew restless. Some cheered Kareth to strike harder. Others began to murmur about the human's strange calmness. Kareth thrust again, faster this time. Elias caught the shaft with both hands, twisting his body. For a brief moment, the human held the weapon of a Zoran general. Gasps filled the air. Kareth pulled free, but her eyes had changed. She was no longer amused. She was curious. "You are not as slow as your kind's reputation says," she admitted, "but it will not save you." Elias said nothing. He simply removed his jacket, folding it neatly and placing it outside the circle. The crowd expected to see a scarred or bruised body, the marks of a soldier's past. Instead, what they saw made the arena fall into silence. Across Elias's right arm, stretching from his shoulder to his wrist, was a tattoo. It was no ordinary design. It glowed faintly, lines of silver and blue forming a spiral around a flame-like symbol. The light pulsed as though alive, as though reacting to the duel itself. Kareth froze, her spear lowered. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The crowd did not understand. They shouted for her to strike. They mocked her hesitation. But she did not move. Her gaze locked on the tattoo, her breath sharp. She whispered something in her own language, words the translators struggled to capture. The mark of the first flame. Elias looked at his arm, puzzled. To him, it was nothing more than a family mark. His father had worn it. His grandfather, too. He had thought it only tradition. Yet here, under the lights of the arena, it glowed with a power he had never seen before. "What is this?" he asked, his voice steady, but edged with confusion. Kareth did not answer. She stepped back, almost stumbling. For the first time in many years, the proud general of the Zoran looked uncertain. The crowd grew louder, restless with confusion. Why does she not strike? What is that light? Why? Does the general hesitate? Elias raised his arm, the glowing tattoo shining for all to see. The council of judges leaned forward, whispering urgently among themselves. Kareth finally found her voice. "Where did you get that mark, human?" Elias frowned. "It has always been in my family. I thought it was only a symbol. Why does it matter?" Kareth's eyes hardened. "It matters because that mark belongs to legends older than this station, older than the wars of my people. It should not exist on you. It should not exist at all." Elias felt the weight of the arena pressing in. The crowd demanded answers. The judges exchanged glances. Something far greater than a duel had just begun. Kareth lowered her spear completely. Her voice trembled, not with fear of Elias, but with fear of what his tattoo meant. "I challenged you to prove humanity's weakness," she said quietly. "Instead, you stand before me carrying the sign of the ancients." Elias did not understand. He looked again at the glowing lines on his arm, the strange flame burning softly against his skin. For the first time in many years, he felt something he could not explain, not fear, not pride, but destiny pressing close. The duel, it seemed, was no longer a simple fight. It was the opening of a mystery that reached across history itself. And in that silence, under the watchful eyes of thousands, Elias Ward realized his life had just changed forever. The arena of Velora had never been so silent. Thousands of voices that once shouted with laughter and scorn were hushed into a strange, heavy stillness. All eyes were locked on the human, Elias Ward, and the glowing tattoo that burned like living fire on his arm. The faint blue-silver light traced across his skin in spirals, moving with each beat of his heart. Elias had never seen it behave this way before. To him, it had always been just a family design, inked in memory of his grandfather. But here, in front of countless alien eyes, it pulsed as if alive. Across from him, General Kareth had lowered her spear. Her armor-clad frame stood rigid, her sharp warrior's gaze softened with something no one in the arena had seen before: hesitation. The crowd began to stir. "Why does she not strike?" shouted a scaled reptilian voice. "She fears the human?" growled another. "Impossible. What is that light?" Kareth ignored them. Her focus never left Elias. Her lips parted, her voice trembling, though she tried to keep it steady. "Human. Do you know what that mark means?" Elias shook his head. "It is only a family mark. My father bore it. His father before him. It was passed down." Kareth's eyes narrowed, a storm gathering in her mind. No, that cannot be. That mark is not of humans. That mark is older than your kind's reach into the stars. It is the mark of the first flame." The words fell heavy, echoing through the translators in every tongue. The crowd erupted into noise, confusion spreading like fire. The first flame? That is only myth. Lies, he must have stolen it. No, I have seen it on the old stones of my people. It cannot be false. Elias's chest tightened as the noise grew. He had faced many dangers before. Storms on alien worlds, mercenaries in lawless systems, starvation in empty space. But this was different. He was standing in the center of a storm he did not understand. The judges of the duel, sitting high above the circle, exchanged urgent whispers. Their robes shimmered with the light of authority, their voices sharp and hurried. One of them, a long-faced being with crystal eyes, finally raised a hand. The duel is halted. The mark must be examined. Kareth looked up at them but said nothing. She simply lowered her spear completely and took a slow step toward Elias. Her movements no longer carried the force of a warrior about to strike. Instead, she walked as if approaching a relic from the past. Elias stood still, uncertain whether to resist or comply. She stopped only a few steps away, her armored hand reaching toward his arm. "May I?" she asked softly. The human nodded. Her gauntleted fingers brushed the glowing tattoo, not with the force of a warrior, but with the care of a priestess touching holy ground. The light pulsed stronger at her touch. Kareth's breath caught in her throat. "It is true," she whispered. "The flame still lives." Elias pulled his arm back, his brow furrowed. "You keep saying that. What is the first flame? Why does my family bear its mark?" Kareth turned, addressing the judges. "I will take him to the Hall of Records. He must see for himself." The council murmured, divided. Some nodded in agreement. Others protested. "This is dangerous. The mark could bring war, or it could bring balance." The decision was made quickly. The duel was suspended, and the human and the general were escorted from the arena under heavy watch. The crowd, restless and buzzing with curiosity, followed, with their eyes until the two vanished into the shining halls of Velora. The Hall of Records was deep within the station, a place where ancient archives were kept. Unlike the loud arenas above, the halls here were quiet, filled with towering stone walls and glowing crystal carvings. Histories of many species were recorded here, protected for centuries. Kareth led Elias through the dim corridors, their footsteps echoing against the marble floor. She did not speak at first. She was still unsettled, as if walking beside a ghost. Elias, however, broke the silence. "You called it the mark of the first flame. What does that mean?" Kareth's voice was low, almost reverent. "It is a symbol from a time when our galaxy was young. Long before the empires of today, long before even my people rose to power, there was a great war. A darkness swept across the stars, a force that consumed worlds. Against it rose the flame bearers, warriors who carried this mark. They were said to wield not just strength, but a light that could bind allies together and drive back the dark." Elias frowned. "You believe my family was part of this? That humans were there?" Kareth stopped before a large door carved with strange runes. She placed her palm against it. The crystal embedded within glowed, and the door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber filled with murals. Elias stepped in, his eyes widening. The walls told stories in color and stone. Alien figures stood tall, wielding weapons of light. Behind them, swirling darkness threatened entire star systems. And among the carvings, among beings with wings, scales, and horns, Elias saw shapes. He recognized immediately humans. They were rougher, dressed in simple armor, but the faces, the form, they were human. And on their arms burned the same spiraling flame tattoo he carried. His mouth went dry. Kareth watched him carefully. "You see now, this is not imagination. Your kind stood with us. And when the war ended, they vanished. The flame faded. For centuries we thought it gone forever." She pointed to his arm. "Yet here you stand wearing it." Elias turned slowly, taking in the murals. "My people. We have no records of this. No history of such wars. Why do we not remember?" Kareth's expression hardened. Perhaps the truth was buried. Perhaps someone wanted it forgotten. Elias shook his head, confusion and disbelief mixing in his chest. "I am just a man, a traveler. I did not come here to play the role of legend." Kareth stepped closer, her eyes sharp. "Whether you wish it or not, the mark chooses you. The galaxy will not ignore this. Already whispers spread. Other factions will see you as a threat or as a hope. The mark does not bring peace. It brings change. Her words weighed heavily. Elias touched the glowing flame on his arm, feeling its warmth. He had always thought it was just ink, but now it pulsed with something deeper, something that seemed alive. Why did it glow? He asked quietly. It never did before. Kareth's gaze softened. Perhaps it responds to danger, perhaps to destiny, or perhaps it recognized me. Elias raised a brow. You? She nodded slowly. The legends say the flame-bearers did not walk alone. They always stood with allies, warriors of different races united by the same fire. When I saw your mark, I remembered the murals of my childhood. That is why I could not strike. For in that moment, I did not see an enemy. I saw a partner. The chamber grew quiet. The murals glowed faintly, as if alive with their own light. Elias felt as though the walls themselves were watching him, waiting. Finally, he broke the silence. If this is true, then my family has carried this secret for centuries without knowing. But why now? Why here? Kareth looked at him with steady eyes. Because the galaxy is changing. And when shadows rise again, the flame must rise to meet them. Elias did not answer. His mind swirled with questions, doubts, and fears. He had wanted only to face a challenge, to prove himself against those who mocked his people. But now he was standing at the edge of something much greater, a destiny written in fire before his birth. As they left the Hall of Records, neither spoke. The silence between them was filled with weight heavier than words. Outside, rumor spread faster than light. News of the human with the glowing tattoo was already reaching distant factions. Some spoke of prophecy, others spoke of war. And though Elias did not yet understand the full meaning of his mark, one truth had become clear. The galaxy would never look at him, or at humanity, the same way again. The corridors of the Velora station were colder than Elias expected. The hum of the station's engines seemed distant, replaced by the soft, steady echo of his boots on the polished floors. He walked beside General Kareth, the air thick, with tension and unspoken questions. Neither spoke at first. Each step felt as though it carried him closer to answers he was not yet ready to face. Finally, Kareth broke the silence. You do not understand, Elias. The mark you carry, but it is not just a symbol, it is a key. A key? Elias echoed, slowing his pace. To what? To powers older than any empire, older than even the oldest stars. The flame-bearers, those who carried this mark centuries ago, were more than warriors. They were guardians. They protected the galaxy from forces no longer remembered. The mark itself holds memory, history, techniques, even warnings. And now it has awakened in you. Elias stopped, feeling the pulse of the glowing tattoo under his skin. Memory? In my arm? Kareth nodded. Yes. You may not know it yet, but when your mark glows, it reacts to presence, danger, or even the call of destiny. And now, you have been called. They entered a chamber deeper in the archives. The walls were lined with crystalline tablets, each etched with images of warriors and events from a time when humans and aliens fought side by side. The air smelled faintly of old stone and energy. Elias ran his fingers along the nearest tablet. Symbols glimmered beneath his touch. These are records of the first flame? He asked. Kareth's voice was soft, almost reverent. Yes, and you are part of that record, though you were unaware until now. Elias studied the images. Humans, wearing simple armor side by side with alien allies, held glowing weapons shaped like the mark he carried. He saw battles that spanned stars, fleets that burned with light, and enemies that seemed like shadows. But this cannot be my history. My ancestors were not known in space. They were just settlers, explorers, ordinary people. Kareth's eyes glimmered. They were ordinary only in appearance. The flame-bearers often hid among the ordinary, keeping their power secret until it was needed. Your ancestors were part of this hidden order. The mark was passed down as a reminder, a signal that one day the fire would be needed again. Elias's mind struggled to process the revelation. So, all this time, humans have been carrying a secret legacy, without knowing it? Kareth nodded. Exactly. And now, you carry it. That is why I hesitated in the arena. I did not see an opponent. I saw someone tied to the very legends my people were raised to revere. The human blinked, staring at the murals that depicted both glory and loss. And the duel? The duel is no longer simple combat, she said. It is a test of the mark. Those who bear the first flame are not measured by strength alone. They are measured by courage, wisdom, and the ability to unite allies. That is why I cannot fight you as I intended. The mark recognizes me, and I recognize it. Elias shook his head, bewildered. I am not ready for any of this. I came here to explore, maybe prove my worth in combat, but not this. Kareth placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Her armor clinked softly. No one ever feels ready, Elias. The flame chooses when it will awaken, not when you feel prepared. She led him further into the chamber, stopping in front of a large circular pedestal. Upon it rested a crystalline sphere faintly glowing from within. Its surface shifted like liquid metal, reflecting the tattoos on his arm as if alive. This, Kareth explained, is a memory orb. It holds fragments of the first flame's history. When a mark awakens, it can access these memories. Your mark may not yet understand how, but soon you will feel the knowledge inside you. Elias reached toward the orb, unsure. The moment his fingers touched it, a pulse of energy ran through him. The tattoo on his arm flared brighter, its light extending, in patterns he had never seen. Images flashed before his eyes, distant planets, battles, strange weapons and faces, human and alien alike, looking to him with hope and determination. He stumbled backward, breathing heavily. I saw things, faces, ships, battles. How is this possible? Kareth watched him carefully. The mark is alive. Not in the sense that it breathes, but it remembers. Your ancestors' memories, their courage, and their choices flow through it. You have only glimpsed a fraction. Elias touched the tattoo again, feeling warmth and strength, but also a strange weight. And the prophecy? You mentioned a prophecy before. Kareth stepped closer. The first flame was not only a guardian, but a symbol of unity. It is said that in times of great danger, one bearing the mark would rise to lead allies of different species against a threat that could destroy worlds. That is why your arrival here is significant. The galaxy senses change, and the mark responds to it. Elias swallowed hard. He had traveled across planets, faced mercenaries, and survived storms of cosmic radiation. But this was different. It was not a challenge of strength or skill. It was a challenge of destiny. Kareth guided him to a smaller chamber. Here, tablets depicted ancient strategies, alliances, and symbols. Among them were records of humans, not as weak or ordinary, but as clever, resourceful, and courageous. Humans had played key roles in battles where alien forces alone could not succeed. You see now, Kareth said softly, your kind was always more than the galaxy remembers. Humanity has been underestimated for centuries, and yet you carried the fire silently, waiting for the right moment. Elias looked down at his arm. I never thought of my family this way. I thought we were explorers, traders, travelers, not warriors of legend. The flame does not require you to fight alone, Kareth explained. It calls for those who can inspire and unite others. Strength comes not only from the body but from the mind and the courage to act when the world doubts you. Elias nodded slowly, trying to absorb the weight of her words. So the duel, it was never really about fighting you? Kareth's expression softened, and she allowed herself a small smile. No. It was about recognition, to see if the mark would reveal itself, and to see how it would awaken in someone unprepared. You passed that test before we even exchanged blows. The hall's energy seemed to shift, as if the ancient records themselves were acknowledging him. The light from his tattoo intertwined with the glow of the crystalline walls. He felt warmth, courage, and something strange, a sense of belonging. Suddenly, a low vibration shook the chamber. Alarms from the station echoed faintly in the distance. Kareth tensed. You see, the galaxy reacts to the awakening. Others will come to test or to challenge you, drawn by the mark's power. Elias's heart quickened. Enemies? Perhaps, Kareth said. Or perhaps allies. Some will not understand your presence, some will fear it, others will see hope. The mark does not control them. It only calls attention. And now, you must be ready. The human looked around, the murals, the tablets, the glowing light of his tattoo reflecting in the crystalline walls. He felt small yet stronger than ever before. His life as a simple traveler was gone. Now he was tied to something older, greater, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Kareth, he said softly, I don't know if I can do this. She placed a firm hand on his shoulder. You will, Elias. Not because you are chosen, but because the flame believes you can. And deep down, so do you. You just have not realized it yet. The alarms continued to echo, faint but urgent. Time was moving faster than he had expected. He had glimpsed the power within him, but understanding it fully would take training, patience, and courage. Kareth gestured toward a hidden stairway leading deeper into the archives. We must prepare. You will need guidance to control the mark, to understand the memories, and to face those who will come. The flame is alive, Elias, and the galaxy will soon feel its awakening. Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. His hand brushed the tattoo, and he felt warmth, strength, and a strange rhythm that seemed to echo with life itself. He was frightened, but also ready to learn. For the first time, he understood that the mark was not just a symbol. It was a bridge between the past and the future, between ordinary humans and the legends of the galaxy. And now it had chosen him. Kareth led the way deeper into the hidden archives. Elias followed, feeling the pulse of the flame in his arm, the weight of history on his shoulders, and the quiet thrill of destiny calling him forward. As they disappeared into the glowing halls, the murals behind them seemed to shimmer as if alive, watching the human who carried the first flame, the human who was about to change the galaxy forever. The sun of Velora hung low in the sky, casting golden light over the arena as it prepared for another day of challenges. The station above hummed with energy, yet down in the circle of honor, tension had grown thick like the calm before a storm. News of Elias Ward's glowing tattoo and his connection to the first flame had spread faster than any duel had ever commanded. Rumors of the prophecy, forgotten wars, and the human's awakened mark reached every corner of the station. For Elias, there was no time to revel in his growing fame or in the awe he inspired. Kareth had insisted he train to understand the mark and to prepare for what was coming. The mark was more than light on his skin. It was a power that responded to thought, courage, and focus, and it would be tested soon, more rigorously than any dueling ground could demand. The chamber they trained in was high above the arena, a large open hall with walls of crystal and floors that seemed to absorb energy. Kareth had arranged various combat devices, holographic figures of alien warriors, simulation obstacles, and gravity fields that could shift without warning. You must learn control first, Kareth said, watching him closely. The mark will react to fear, to anger, even to hesitation. You cannot rely on strength alone. You must rely on clarity, courage, and strategy. Elias flexed his fingers, feeling the warmth of the tattoo pulse faintly along his arm. "I understand," he said, though the truth was he did not. Not yet. The tattoo was alive, yes, but how it chose to respond or when it would react was still a mystery. Kareth nodded. "Then we begin." For hours, they trained. Kareth moved with unmatched precision, her spear glinting like lightning. Elias learned to anticipate her moves, to read the subtle shifts in her stance, the tension in her arms, the movement of her eyes. Every strike, every feint, every twist tested him not only physically, but mentally. Sometimes, when he hesitated or faltered, the tattoo flared, almost guiding him, pulsing along the flow of his movement. It was subtle, but undeniable. Each flicker of light seemed to teach him rhythm, awareness, and speed. "You see?" Kareth said during a brief pause. Sweat ran down her face beneath her helmet. "The mark responds to confidence. When you doubt yourself, it hesitates. When you trust yourself, it strengthens." Elias nodded, breathing hard. "It feels like it wants me to move, but I do not yet understand how." "That is why you must experience it," she said. "We cannot rush. The mark will teach you, in its own time, but it responds to action, to risk, and to courage." By evening, they paused. Elias leaned against a wall, exhausted but more aware than ever. His arm glowed faintly in the dim light, and he realized it was not just decoration. It was memory, guidance, and instinct all at once. The next morning, Kareth led him to the arena. The circle of honor was crowded beyond anything Elias had seen. Aliens from multiple species, warriors and leaders alike, gathered to witness. What they had heard was a test of the first flame itself. Whispers ran like electric currents through the crowd. "They said the human carries the mark. Do you think he is truly powerful? The flame chooses him, or perhaps it chooses the galaxy." Elias's heart pounded, but he remained calm. Kareth's presence at his side reminded him of the lessons of the past day. Focus, clarity, courage. At the center of the arena stood a new challenger, a coalition of elite warriors from multiple species. Not one, not two, but 4 champions, each representing their world, their people, and their pride. Kareth turned to him. "Today, the duel is not against one, it is against many. But remember, strength is not enough. Strategy, timing, and courage will guide you." Elias nodded. He had learned in the Hall of Records that the mark worked with intention. Every movement, every decision, every heartbeat mattered. The bell rang. Immediately, the warriors advanced. One, a towering alien with claws sharp as blades, lunged with incredible speed. Elias moved instinctively, and the tattoo flared, guiding his reflexes. He sidestepped, grabbed momentum from the movement, and sent the alien stumbling past him. Another, warrior smaller but nimble, struck with twin energy whips. Elias dodged, weaving between the strikes. His arm glowed faintly, and a shield-like barrier seemed to pulse in response to his focus. The crowd gasped. For the first time, they saw the tattoo acting as a protective force, not just decoration. Kareth fought beside him, a whirlwind of controlled power. Spear flashing, moves precise, she protected him when needed but allowed him space to act. This was a partnership, a union of legend and awakening. Elias felt the mark respond to her presence. The light strengthened, flowing along his arm as if acknowledging her guidance. He realized the mark was not just for him. It connected to those he trusted, those who fought beside him. The battle intensified. The 4 elite warriors coordinated, forcing him to move, think, and anticipate constantly. His breathing remained steady, his mind alert. He realized that each strike, each dodge, each decision was feeding the mark, awakening more of its power. Then one warrior tried to corner him. Elias felt panic rising, a dangerous moment. The tattoo flared brightly, and for an instant, he could see patterns. The warrior's movements predicted, the safest path illuminated in light. He acted instinctively, twisting, striking, and knocking his opponents off balance. The crowd erupted. Aliens and humans alike, gasped at the skill and precision of the human. Kareth's eyes glimmered with pride. "You see now," she said, "the mark awakens fully only when courage, clarity, and action combine." After what felt like hours, but was only minutes, the elite warriors retreated. They recognized the human was no ordinary opponent. Even Kareth's respect was clear in her posture. Elias stood chest heaving, arm glowing faintly but steadily. The crowd fell silent, not with fear, but with awe. Whispers of, "The first flame walks again," filled the arena. Elias lowered his arm, breathing deeply. The weight of the mark was heavy, but it no longer frightened him. He had glimpsed its power and understood in part how it worked. More importantly, he had learned that he could rise to meet challenges far beyond anything he had imagined. Kareth stepped forward, placing her hand on his shoulder. "You have done well. But know this, the duel is only beginning. Others will come. Challenges far greater than these will test not only your skill, but your courage and leadership." Elias nodded, feeling a quiet determination settle over him. "I understand. I am ready for what comes." Kareth smiled. "Good, because the flame does not awaken slowly. Once it stirs, the galaxy feels its pulse. There are those who will fear it, those who will seek it, and those who will try to take it from you. You must be vigilant." The human looked over the arena, seeing not just the crowd but the legacy of warriors who had gathered to witness his awakening. He felt connected to the history he had glimpsed in the Hall of Records, to the humans and aliens who had stood together centuries ago, and to the future he now held in his hands. For the first time, he truly believed in his role, not as a lone explorer or traveler, but as a bearer of the first flame. As the light from his tattoo pulsed steadily, Elias felt something deep within him: courage. Not the reckless bravery of youth, but the calm, focused courage of one who understands their power, their responsibility, and the lives they may influence. The true duel was not only about combat, it was about leadership, wisdom, and unity. And Elias Ward, human of humble origins, had begun to awaken to the full potential of his mark. As the sun set over the Velora station, the arena emptied slowly. Aliens and humans alike whispered about the human who had faced the elite warriors, about the glowing mark, and about the legend that was no longer buried in myth. Elias stayed with Kareth, training and learning, but also preparing. The mark had awakened, yes, but it would continue to grow, and the galaxy would continue to challenge him. Above all, he realized something profound. The duel was not just about fighting. It was about showing the galaxy that courage, unity, and the human spirit could rise above fear and prejudice. The first flame was more than a mark. It was a testament to hope, strength, and the enduring power of humanity. And in that moment, Elias Ward, human among legends, felt the full weight and the full promise of destiny resting on his shoulders. The true duel had begun. The sun of Velora rose slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the arena of the Circle of Honor. The air was electric, alive with anticipation. Word of Elias Ward and the first flame had spread far beyond the station. Aliens from distant star systems, leaders of factions both large and small, warriors of every species gathered to see the human who had awakened the mark of legend. Elias stood at the center of the arena, arm glowing softly with the spiraling tattoo. Kareth remained by his side, her spear in hand, but her attention focused on the crowd and the events to come. Today was not just a duel. It was the culmination of destiny. "The final test begins now," Kareth whispered. "The mark will face not only strength but wisdom, courage, and unity. Others will challenge you, Elias, and the choices you make will determine not just your future, but humanity's place in the galaxy." Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. His heart raced, but he felt the calm clarity he had learned during training. The mark pulsed, alive beneath his skin, responding to his focus. From the far side of the arena, a fleet of warriors advanced. Not four this time, but dozens, representing factions that had long competed and sometimes warred across the stars. Some were heavily armored, others fast and agile, and each carried weapons designed to overwhelm. Yet Elias did not falter. He remembered the lessons Kareth had taught him: courage, clarity, and strategy. The bell rang. Instantly, the challengers split into groups, attempting to surround him. Elias moved instinctively. The tattoo flared brightly, and he felt guidance in the movements of the opponents. The light traced paths of safety, timing, and opportunity. He dodged, weaved, and struck at openings, using their own momentum against them. Each movement was precise, each step deliberate. Kareth fought beside him, a whirlwind of skill and experience. Yet she allowed Elias to take the lead, testing his control of the mark and his ability to command his surroundings. The crowd watched in awe. The human was not merely surviving, he was orchestrating the battle. He anticipated strikes before they came, countered multiple opponents at once, and moved with an agility and intuition that seemed almost impossible. The mark pulsed brighter with every correct action, guiding him and reinforcing his confidence. One group of attackers tried to trap him near the edge of the arena. Elias's mind raced. The mark responded to his focus, revealing a narrow opening between two warriors. He ducked under a sweeping strike, rolled to the side, and used the motion to propel himself forward, knocking two opponents off balance. The crowd gasped. Whispers spread rapidly. "Is this human controlling the first flame? Look at the mark. It reacts with him. They say legends come alive. This is proof." Despite his growing confidence, Elias remained focused. He realized that strength alone would not win this duel. It required understanding, foresight, and the courage to act decisively. He began to see the pattern of the attackers, their movements, timing, and coordination. Using the mark as guidance, he positioned himself strategically, leading the warriors into openings where Kareth could assist or where they could counter each other. The battle raged on. Aliens and humans alike watched in awe as Elias moved with unmatched precision, the tattoo on his arm glowing like a living flame. Every strike, dodge, and step was part of a larger dance. A dance of courage, clarity, and strategy. Then, the tide shifted. One of the challengers, a large and heavily armored warrior from the Rithari species, lunged directly at Elias with incredible force. Elias felt the risk. A wrong move could end the duel. Yet the mark pulsed, glowing brighter than ever, as if urging him forward. Elias focused, calm and steady. He sidestepped the lunge, grabbed the momentum of the attacker, and used it to throw the Rithari off balance. The warrior tumbled but regained footing quickly, only to find themselves surrounded by others who had underestimated the human's control. Kareth's voice rang clear. "Elias, now." He acted. Using the guidance of the mark, he moved swiftly through the battlefield, striking precise points that neutralized the attackers without causing lasting harm. His movements were clean, controlled, and effective. The tattoo glowed intensely, almost as if alive, radiating power, courage, and confidence. The challengers began to recognize the human's skill. They faltered, hesitated, and some even stepped back. Elias had not only survived but had gained the upper hand. The mark had awakened fully, and with it, Elias had become the living embodiment of the first flame. The crowd erupted into cheers. Aliens who had long underestimated humanity now whispered among themselves, disbelief in their voices. "He fights like the legends. The flame has chosen him." Kareth's eyes shone with pride. "You see now, Elias, the mark is more than power. It is leadership. It is courage. It unites those who stand beside it." Elias looked around the arena. He saw fear, respect, and awe in the eyes of the challengers. But more importantly, he saw potential allies, beings who, once convinced of his intentions and honor, could fight together for a greater purpose. The final wave of attackers approached. This time it was not strength or numbers that mattered, but clarity and decisiveness. Elias felt the tattoo respond, the spiraling lines of light tracing paths that guided him through the chaos. He moved as if the arena itself were alive, each step and strike orchestrated by the combined power of skill and destiny. One by one, the attackers fell back, not defeated, but convinced. They recognized the mark, the power, and the leadership it represented. The human had risen beyond fear, beyond doubt, and had become a beacon of hope. The arena fell silent. The challengers bowed, acknowledging Elias as one who carried the first flame. The crowd watched in awe, witnessing history in the making. Kareth stepped forward, her spear lowered. "The duel is complete," she announced. "Elias Ward has awakened the first flame. He has proven courage, wisdom, and the power to unite allies. Humanity's place among the stars is no longer in question." Elias stood, chest heaving, arm glowing softly with the tattoo's light. He felt a profound sense of clarity, responsibility, and connection. The mark was not merely power. It was a reminder of the legacy he carried, the courage he embodied, and the potential of humanity itself. The crowd erupted into cheers. Aliens and humans alike shouted, clapped, and celebrated. The prophecy of the first flame had been fulfilled, in part, and a new chapter for the galaxy had begun. Kareth placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. "You have done more than survive. You have inspired. You have awakened hope. The galaxy will remember this day." Elias looked out over the arena, feeling the weight of the mark and the hope it represented. He understood now that his journey was far from over. The first flame had awakened within him, and with it came responsibility, leadership, and the chance to shape the future. "Humanity is no longer small," he said quietly, almost to himself. "We have a place here, among the stars." Kareth nodded. "And you will guide them. You are not alone. Allies will come, and together we will face the challenges ahead. The mark chose you for a reason, Elias." The human looked at his glowing tattoo one last time, feeling its warmth and strength. He had begun as a traveler, an explorer, unaware of the legacy he carried. Now he was a bearer of the first flame, a symbol of courage, unity, and hope for the entire galaxy. As the sun set over Velora Station, the arena emptying and the crowd departing, Elias and Kareth stood together, ready to face the future. The duel had ended, but the true journey had only begun. Across the stars, whispers of the human with the glowing mark spread. Aliens, humans, and civilizations alike looked to the horizon, knowing that the first flame had awakened. A new era was beginning, one where courage, wisdom, and unity would define the galaxy, and humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Elias felt the pulse of the mark, steady and strong. He knew challenges would come, dangers lurked in distant systems, and enemies would seek the flame. Yet he was ready. He had learned that the mark was not merely power, it was trust, courage, and the ability to rise when needed. With Kareth by his side and the legacy of the first flame within him, Elias Ward, human of humble origins, prepared to face the future. The galaxy had witnessed the awakening. The first flame had returned, and humanity, long underestimated, would rise with it, stronger and brighter than ever before. And so the story of Elias Ward, the human who carried the first flame, came to a turning point. A duel had sparked a legend. A tattoo had awakened destiny. And the stars themselves seemed to shimmer, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same again.